The few things, I guess, is that some of the job postings are fairly technical. Right? You have reservoir engineers, you have tax law, you have safety policies. The first step in the process is usually an HR person or a recruiter is going to look at that. And based on the organization, that recruiter could be a variety of experience. So assuming that that recruiter is fairly junior or maybe new to the area, they have the job posting, which has a list of 10 things that the hiring manager wants. They're looking at your resume, and at first glance, they're seeing, okay, well, does this person have those 10 things that I'm looking for? So in that regard, yes, it's important that you make it clear either on your cover letter or your resume that that lingo is the same. So for instance, when I'm looking at a resume and I'll just say, okay, I'm looking for a January 8-month mechanical engineer. When I'm looking at a resume, I pull it up. The first things I'm going to look for is, are they a current student? Are they available in January for 8 months? And then are they mechanical? Right? Those are the few things that I have to see first before I care about anything else. So in a sense, if you have a cover letter, or if you just have a resume and that top section, a summary page or an objective line or something, I'm a mechanical engineer looking for 8 months starting in January. Make it so clear that it's answering my first question, and then I can look at anything else. Right? And then I'll be like, okay, good. They've met that criteria. Now I'm looking for someone who has experience, with oil and gas wells, or, with XYZ software, or can program with certain coding, or whatever it might be. So then I'll go to my other list of things and I'll look at the resume to see, okay, is there a match? So you have to think, though, that you don't want to necessarily copy and paste word for word what's on the job posting. But this is where, again, taking a look at the job posting, I write job postings all the time, and I can tell you they're still bad. There's no such thing as a good job posting out there, right? So take a look at the job posting and really understand what the heck is the job. What's going to be those typical challenges? What's actually involved in that position? And then so you take that and you make sure that your resume or your cover letter are highlighting the actual components of the job. And so that when the recruiter is looking at it, and then when the hiring manager is looking at it, they can actually see that either you have a strong understanding of the job and or you actually have the skill sets to back it up. I mean, there is things like LinkedIn, who you may be able to find, different recruiters or campus advisors or that kind of stuff. You might be able to, from smaller organizations, find who a lead or a supervisor that's likely to be doing those interviews. Do not put attention CEO of the company or some, I've seen a lot of resumes that have the CEO or, the chairman of the board or some really big wig on their cover letter. And it's just like, there's no way this person is going to be looking at your resume right now, right? Or it's unlikely. So if you can find the person, great. If you can't find the person, even something as simple as, the Canadian Natural Student Selection Committee, or, the accounting group, or you're personalizing it enough that they're looking at the cover letter and it's just, okay, yeah, this is actually meant for me. It's not meant for the CEO. It's not meant for, a different group. They're actually trying to make it personalized for me. So if you can't find the actual individual person, that's okay, but you can still personalize it to the position. So it's a bit of a balance for sure. Should you add it in your application or your resume? Absolutely, you should, if it makes sense. You don't want to force it. You also don't want to make your application 20 pages long. Ideally, 1, maybe 2 pages for your resume. You take a look and see, well, okay, first off, maybe you can make a list of what do you know about the company you're applying for, like Canadian Natural. And then take a step back and think, okay, well, why do you care? Why do we care? That kind of stuff. So if you're looking at, for instance, let's say you grew up in Lloydminster and you actually want to job in Lloydminster and you know that CNRL operates there and that kind of stuff, right? Then that's a piece of information that makes sense, right? Canadian Natural operates in the community I grew up in. I'd love an opportunity to go back, okay, that makes sense. You have a passion for greenhouse gas emissions, and you've noticed that Canadian Natural has reduced their greenhouse gas emissions by doing X, Y, Z, and based on your school and your education, you'd love to be a part of that, and you'd love to be a part of the solution of how we recycle more water, or how we further reduce the methane emissions, or how we further create shareholder value within our accounting group by following XYZ, or whatever it might be, right? So you're taking one of these facts or multiple facts that and you're personalizing it. You're taking maybe the CNRL mission statement and you're incorporating it in how you actually do things. You're proving that you live that mission statement too, even though you're not working for the company right now. So referrals are obviously a tough one because we get a lot of referrals. So within the application, there's a generic spot of how did you hear about this position, and you can drop down. Most companies have it within their ATS of I heard it on LinkedIn or Facebook, or I saw the job posting, or a social media board or something like that. We also, in we'll call it our multiple choice questions, there's a little short answer that says, do you know anyone at Canadian Natural? And so you could put someone's name. That doesn't necessarily guarantee you an interview, but it does carry some weight. If we're looking at your resume, if we're looking here and we're trying to shortlist, and we're looking for a bit of a tiebreaker, right? Those referrals might be what it needs to break that tie. Because again, it helps highlight that you're actually applying for Canadian Natural because you want to, not just because, oh, I need a job and I'm just clicking apply down the list and seeing who actually will call me back. The other thing, and it's, I hate to admit it, but we all know that it works, is that if you were to send an email to your referral at Canadian Natural to say, hey, I applied on this position, and then that referral then, sends an email to, in a sense, my team saying, hey, me as a great employee is referring this great person, please take a look. That carries a little bit of weight. I hate to admit it, I wish it didn't, but at the very least, probably look at the resume and spend a few more seconds just to see if it's a fit, right? It doesn't guarantee it'll be interviewed, but it buys you that extra 10, 20 seconds to see, okay, is this a possibility? The quick answer is probably yes. So for instance, if you were to take a look at our website right now, and I'll just use engineers as an example, we have a few EIT positions posted on our student job board. The last few years, there's been almost nothing for EIT new grads. And the reason being is we've still hired a lot of new grads, but we exclusively offered the chance to apply to previous CNRL students. So this has just been kind of like the perfect wave where our student program has been maintained over the last few years, but our EIT numbers have gone up. And so there's a little bit of a void. But even then, the positions that we have posted are only a few, right? So if you're a mining engineer, if you're a chemical engineer, if you're, whatever it might be, your chances are definitely higher, and you're included in the first round if you were a previous student. We have a supply chain program, and almost all of those supply chain new grads are from previous CNRL students. We have a CPA program, and so on one of the announcements that are going to be out, in the next little bit, we'll talk a little bit about how companies like Canadian Natural and large resource companies actually have an approved and accredited CPA program. So you could join us, and we have a recognized rotation that allows you to get your CPA internally. You don't have to go to one of the big fours to get enough experience. And so with that, there's a lot of new grads from a commerce program that goes into a CPA program. We just started a little bit not too long ago I was actually able to hire students on my team. So, in terms of, so if you're an HR person, there's opportunity there, and I'm hoping that turns into some new grad opportunities. And a shameless plug, but I have a posting right now. I'm looking for 2 students to start right away. So take a look online, and if you're an HR person looking for something, there's something there. So, I mean, to answer your question, absolutely, you have a leg up on if you were a previous CNRL student. And then a few other things with that, especially if you apply on year 1, year 2, when we, so I said earlier, all of our postings go live September 1st. Well, we actually start hiring people August 1st. And those are returning students or existing students that were like, hey, you're a high performer. You want to come back next year? Before we even get the job posting out, we'll send you a letter. We'll offer you a job for next year, right? So we do a lot of returning student hiring as well as new grad hiring. And you hear a hidden job market out there, right? There's so many jobs that aren't posted, and that is true. And one of the ways to access it at Canadian Natural is that if you were a previous student that was a high performer. Yes, we do, but not usually just a fresh new grad. So now we do hire master's students, PhD students as part of our student program. So they can come and work for us as a student, as well as our student opportunities are open to those who just graduate. And that's whether it's from a bachelor degree, a master's degree, or college diploma, that kind of stuff. So we do support students who've just graduated who want work experience in that way. But to go back to school, generally you need some work experience under your belt. You need to be performing well. You need to show that will actually help you in the position, right? But I mean, I would take a step back a little bit too and think that, okay, well, from an accounting perspective, we have a CPA program that in-house can help that, right? From a political science perspective, not that it's quite the same, but we have internal communications. We have different options there. A lot of our external communications and we have stakeholder relations that focuses a lot on Aboriginal groups and the communities that we work in. And as you can imagine, oil and gas has a lot of regulations. So there's the governing bodies that we work with. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And so maybe it's not formal education, but it's definitely an opportunity to work and grow and develop that skill set that enhances your skill set, and you learn, continuously, right? From an HR perspective, we offer the opportunity to go through and get that, CPHR designation or whatever it might be. Supply chain, again, same kind of thing, where there's a lot of opportunity to learn in-house. Our EIT programs, GIT programs, we have a full rotation to make sure that in 4 or 5 years, they're able to get their PNG degree with fair ease, and that they have a lot of that in-house training. So I don't think, while post-secondary education is good, I think we also have a lot of education opportunities in-house that help get that new grad ready for some professional experience.
That's great to hear, for sure, that Canadian Natural is really invested in our character arcs as we go through our young professional lives. Okay, well, that about wraps up our Q&A for today. So thank you everybody so much for attending and for watching. Thanks for the great questions. And Mike, thank you so much for your time today. We so appreciate this.